Hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge. Back once again with something I hadn't really planned on doing, but it occurred to me whilst I'm in quarantine and I'm not in a position to pick up any custom binds or any new comics for a while. I thought, why not? I'm going to do a library tour, or a room tour as a lot of people seem to call them. So this is going to be a multi-part series, like most of my series are, just because I figured what I'll do is actually do quite a deep dive into the library, into the stuff I collect and why I collect it. I don't want to rush through it. And instead of making it a 2 or 2.5 hour long video, I thought I'll split it up into like a dozen or so different sections, each covering different shelves and different ranges and parts of my collection. So yeah, please watch the series. Hope you enjoy. There's two things to start with. First, just apologies for the shaky cam. I don't have a gimbal and I don't have access to a gimbal at the moment, so it is going to be kind of shaky, kind of wobbly. I'll try to edit it as best I can to minimize that as much as possible. But ultimately, my hands are kind of tied to that. And then the second thing that I just wanted to say before we really dive into any of it is that my library's a little bit eclectic. And the reason for that is something that I call the Jerry moment, which is how and why I decide what I'm going to collect. So I'm just going to explain what I mean by that. I used to collect comics in kind of a relatively haphazard way. Whatever I bought or whatever I read, I would pick up and I would keep, and I would just have like just a massive smorgasbord of all the stuff that I read and I liked, and characters I liked, and bits and pieces and all sorts of things. And then one day a friend of mine called Jerry came over, and he only had a couple of hours free, and he came over to my house and he was like, oh, I'd love to read one of these while I'm here. And I said, sure, yeah, pick anything you like. And he picked something off the shelf, and I won't say what it is because I don't want to hate on any particular series. But he picked something off the shelf, and I said, oh, no, you've only got 2 hours. Don't read that. It's not very good at all. And he said, oh, it looks good. And I went, yeah, I know, but it looks good, but it's not. It's terrible. Don't read that. And then he picked something else off the shelf, and I was like, oh, dude, no, seriously, if you haven't read anything in a while, and you've only got a couple of hours, don't waste your time on that. That's basically terrible. Pick something. Here. And then I picked something, and I said, hey, have this. Read this. It's a single trade paperback. You'll enjoy it, and this is good. And he was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do that. So he got a drink, and he sat down, and he started reading it. And then he turned to me and he said, can I just ask, why do you have stuff on your shelf which is rubbish? And I looked at him and I said, I don't really know. And that was the point where it suddenly occurred to me, I don't want to have stuff in my collection just for the sake of having it. If it's not something that I'm going to recommend to someone else, why would I have it? And I know collecting ideologies vary. Some people want to collect absolutely everything. Some people collect entire ranges or entire publishing lines. Some people will have every single Marvel comic ever released, usually Masterworks and Epics and things like that. Other people will collect all DC or all Wildstorm or all particular areas like Rebirth and so on and so forth. And that's all cool and that's all fine. I've got no problem with that. Everyone should have their own ethos as to how they collect. But in my mind, the reason the way that I collect is I want to collect stuff that I like, and I'll arrange it the way that I like. And every single thing pretty much in my collection is something I can turn to someone and say, that's good, that's great, you should read that. That's not to say everything's going to be accessible to someone. It might be a case that there's some comics where I'll go, that's great, but you're not really going to appreciate it until you've read a lot of other comics first, or it's a bit advanced or something like that. So Planetary is a perfect example of that. The more you know about other comics, the more you'll appreciate Planetary. But the thing is, everything in my collection now is stuff that I do like, and it meant that I ended up getting rid of a lot of my collection. I'd say probably about 60% of it. And then I started buying new stuff and taking my time and being much more careful and much more discerning about what I had, because I realised I don't need or want to curate everything for everyone. And no disrespect to the people that have Marvel Masterworks or classic Golden Age or Silver Age stuff. If you like that, that's great, but I personally don't like that, and I personally wouldn't recommend that to anyone. And I personally don't want to take up space on my shelf when there's other comics that I would enjoy and I would read twice. And this isn't quite like a Marie Kondo sparking joy in me sort of narrative, but it really is a point of you should only have the comics that you enjoy, you should only have the comics that you like, and whatever your comic collecting ideology is or your ethos is, you should stick to that. And for me, I only have things that I personally enjoy and I like and I would read again and I would recommend to others. As a result, when you look at my library, you look at this room tour over the next dozen or so videos, you'll see I don't have things like Watchmen, Sandman, Preacher, Saga, Why the Last Man, Black Science. I mean, you can name any dozen or so popular series and I will have read them, but I'll have chosen not to purchase them because at the end of the day, the ones that in many cases people love and rave on about and say are great are ones that I'm not necessarily a fan of, and I wouldn't personally read again, and I wouldn't personally recommend to my friends. And if my friends wanted to read them, they can go to a library and pick them up. So from my point of view, my library and my room tour is going to be the comics that I like. So this is all entirely subjective. But anyway, enough preamble. Let's just dive into it. What I'm going to do over the next dozen or so videos is have a little intro bit, have a little outro bit, and then most of it is just going to be just some guerrilla Dogma 95 style footage of me just wandering around my library, talking through it in as much clearness and coherency as I can. So please, enjoy.
Alright people, doing it MTV Crib style. This is where the magic happens. So, just stepping in, as you can see, this is a dedicated library room. What I'll be doing over the next few videos is going through all my statues, going through what I collect, how I collect it, why I collect it, and broadly speaking, how and why stuff is arranged the way that it is. I'll also spend at least one video going through all the artwork that I have, because I've got quite a fair bit of artwork. I'm not planning on doing one about video games unless anyone is particularly into that. And obviously I'll do one video just exclusively on my absolute editions there. Also, while I go through, I'll be talking about the sort of furniture I'm using, how I've affixed all the pictures to the wall, various tips and tricks in terms of setting up your collection or just organising things that I would recommend. And yeah, I guess I'll just be going through it, guys, in a fair bit of detail. One of the things I've also been looking to set up is a Skyview camera setup, which means that if anyone is particularly interested in me setting up or doing overviews of any particular things I've got that you haven't seen done elsewhere, then obviously please just give me a shout. Alright, this is getting into it, and what I'm going to do is, I think the first video I'm going to go through my DC, New 52, Rebirth, other stuff. Then I'm going to have a video going through my Ultimate stuff and some hardcovers. Then I'll probably have a video here of all my absolutes one by one. And then I'm going to spend a video on my Marvel Omnibuses, OHCs. Obviously I won't dwell on the actual prose books unless anyone's particularly interested. And then obviously, of course, the Valiant collection and the Independents as well. And then, like I said, I'll finish it off with some chat about the various bits of artwork that I have. And then here I've got some other stuff. And scattered through this whole collection are my customs and my various other sort of unique projects as well. Alright guys, hopefully that gives you a feel for how the room is laid out. Which is going to be kind of important because of the way that I'm going to be talking about it. Awesome. Catch you guys next time.
Okay, and that was the end of video 0, Introduction to my library. Brief, short, sharp. The next dozen or so videos in this series is going to be anything from 10 to 25 minutes long, and I'll be diving into stuff bit by bit in a fair bit of depth. Anything you want to know more about, if you want to know more about a particular comic, or if you want me to try and do a overhead overview of a particular comic or talk it through in more detail, please just let me know. Just shoot at me in the comments below, or you can always tweet me. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, tweet me at IamThomasJudge. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and picking up my prose novel No Gods or Kings. Until next time guys, stay classy.